Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I am the Crypto Crow, and I am doing a very special and very different video today for my aunt, Julie. Now, there's been a lot going on, and there's a lot going on, a lot of major transitions and changes in her life, and we have been texting back and forth, several phone calls over the last few months. There's a lot happening, and some of it came to a final resolution, I guess, yesterday, which I'm very happy for her. And, you know, she basically sent me a message and said, Jason, I don't know what to do. I need to invest, and I need to I need to really focus on basically making my way. And she just doesn't know what to do. And I said, buy Bitcoin. And I joked and I kind of laughed. And she said, how did I know you were going to say something like that? And she said, I don't know what to do. I said, I'm going to do a video and I'm going to explain it all. And this is going to be a very kind of a high level, explanation of things starting off. And because I have a playlist, there's a playlist in this channel. I think it's getting started in crypto or something like that. And it's a playlist of everything from how to use wallets to, you name it. But we're going to give this an explanation as to what makes crypto so special, why so many people have done so well that understand it. And ultimately, I'm going to try and help you and then anyone else watching this video understand it. If you're not new, I'm not going to say anything in this video you don't already know. If you've been following me for a long time, you're going to know everything I'm already talking about. But it does help the algorithm if you stay along and leave your comments. And if there's anything I forget to touch on in this video, let me know in the comments below what those might be so that my Aunt Julie can read them and further help her goal. Now, there's two things. One, I'm going to go over crypto. Two, I'm going to go over another thing that I'm working on that Julie, you could potentially get involved with and make another a nice recurring revenue stream. And it does involve health products. I know it sounds crazy, but I will just start by saying this. Over the last year, my mother-in-law has been taking a bunch of these health products and has lost well over 40 pounds. I had no idea what she was doing. I just knew she was losing weight. She looks great. She feels she's different. She's a lot different. My wife, Kristen, has been taking these products now for over a year as well. Different products for different things. One of which being this coffee. She's been giving it to me for a long time. I didn't realize what this stuff was all about. And my wife swears by it. We have boxes of this stuff. I had no idea. The stuff is not cheap. But apparently, us buying all this coffee, it basically made it so that my mother-in-law could take a flight down here and visit for a week. But I have joined this company. And I'm building a new website. I'm going to show you at the end of this video for those that are interested. For those that aren't, it's okay. And then it's something that you might want to get involved with because it's pretty cool. So let's get started. Now, the number one question is Bitcoin. This is Coinbase.com. This is what I believe to be one of the safest, most secure exchanges for cryptocurrency. They are actually going to be handling the custody being, institutions and major investment players that buy cryptocurrency. They want to make the trades. They want to handle the business. They don't want to handle the holding of it, the liability of holding it. And they call that custody. And Coinbase is going to be handling the custody for the BlackRock Bitcoin ETF when it's approved, which I believe it will be. And that is going to be a really big deal. Start your portfolio today and get up to $200 in crypto. Now, one of the things about Coinbase, I'm pretty sure they still do this. When you sign up for Coinbase, they actually have courses inside the exchange that will educate you on blockchain technology, and they will educate you on, there's just a lot of videos, basically a lot of videos to watch relevant to Bitcoin and a lot of other cryptocurrencies that they list. Yeah, learn tips, tutorials, update the system, market updates. There's all kinds of different stuff, crypto questions. And they will actually pay you in crypto to learn this stuff. And it's a really great place to learn. So I would highly suggest setting up a Coinbase account. Do not save your password into your browser. Use a Google Authenticator. And I would say don't use your cell phone for it. You're going to want to use your cell phone for Google two-factor authenticator and everything. I suggest you do not do that. If you lose your phone or something happens, then you lose access to everything. There are some ways, especially on Coinbase, you can fill out forms and do a bunch of stuff to get it back. But I would suggest getting an iPod that is not connected to the internet. And use your iPod for Google two-factor. Keep it locked away. That way you have it. It's not connected to a data plan. It's not connected to anything. It's basically a little standalone device. I would also suggest picking up like a YubiKey on Amazon or something for some of the other accounts you might be setting up. A YubiKey is a little physical device. You plug it into your USB, you push a button, and that will unlock things. You can't unlock things without it. It's basically a way to prevent people that should not be getting access to anything on your system from getting access to it. Okay. Now you'll see currently Bitcoin's trading at $25,641. This is after peaking at $64,000, all right, in 2021. You will also see, if you go down here, you have Ethereum in number 2. This is the second ranked project or cryptocurrency in the market really right now. This is the first blockchain to introduce smart contracts after the launch of Bitcoin. And then you get rid of some of these stable tokens, which are basically cryptocurrencies. Some are centralized, some are decentralized, but they should always only be worth $1. And a lot of traders use these, especially derivatives and traders. You go down, you see XRP, and then down here you see Cardano. This is the project that absolutely changed my life. This is the cryptocurrency that I adopted back in 2017. I've been educating my viewers about it ever since. Many of my viewers were buying this. You know, it originally pumped up to like $1.33, dropped all the way back down to 2 cents. Everybody said, wow, this is a ghost chain. This is terrible. And I said, no, it's not. This is the market cycle. We had a lot of newbies in the space that don't understand market cycles, which we're about to get into. And a lot of my viewers that like believed in me and trusted me and my perception of the market, which I'm always right sometimes, okay? But a lot of my viewers were buying this at 2 cents. And I think it was within 6.5 months, it got all the way back up and beyond and peaked out at $3.14. And then it's come all the way back down to 25 cents. This is I've been buying Cardano since it was 50 cents. Buying on its way down is what we call averaging down. You don't want to do this to a lot of projects in crypto, but for something that you believe is fundamentally sound and it's going to do very, very well in the future due to its development and everything that it has going on, which we'll dive into a little bit, averaging down in a bear market, depending on where you start, is actually a pretty good thing because it lowers your average entry price, which means you find profit much sooner than if you were to just go all in at a price. Let's say if I would have went all in at 50 cents, and then it dropped all the way down to 25 cents. Well, now it has to go all the way back up to 50 cents before I'm at profit. But by averaging down, I might have lowered my price to, 35 cents, right? So I only need about 10 cents before my entire Cardano portfolio is at profit. I believe Cardano is personally going to hit somewhere between, let's just conservatively say, between $5 to $8 in the next year and a half or so. By 2025. This is a big win. This is in my opinion, this isn't financial advice, Julie. Okay. This is just me explaining things to a relative. Solana, a lot of people are going to be talking about this. it's bunk, in my opinion. It's centralized garbage that's pumped up by venture capitalist firms that are just basically trying to capitalize on their greed and the ignorance of the public. And there's a lot of use for it because they artificially funded themselves and pumped their price through FTX. And a lot of that money went into funding a lot of projects on the Solana blockchain. Most of them don't do much of anything. I'm not, you're going to see a lot of this. I would ignore this if I were you. It's just my opinion, not financial advice. It's still going to go up in the bull market, so it doesn't really matter. Now, this is CoinMarketCap, and this is basically the website that ultimately shows all of the values of the current space in crypto. This is a different website altogether to Coinbase. But set up your Coinbase account. That's first and foremost. You're going to have to set up your bank account or a credit card. You're going to be able to, you'll set it up likely as a personal account unless you have an LLC or a business, and then at which point you'll set up a business account. And you'll be able to deposit. It takes about 7 days. Okay, because they want to make sure that the fund's clear and that it's all legal and everything is on the up and up. They're reporting everything that they do on their end. It'll take about 7 days from the time you make a deposit till the time it's cleared for you to purchase anything. But I do believe that even in the middle of that transaction, you're able to purchase on paper the crypto, but you won't actually be able to do anything with it until your funds have cleared 100%. So that is your first step, Coinbase. Now we're going to dive into some of the nitty gritty with Bitcoin. What it makes Bitcoin so popular? Why does everyone care? What is the whole deal, right? Number one in this equation is there's only going to ever be 21 million Bitcoin. 21 million. That's it. Its fully diluted market cap right now is $538 billion with a B. So that means that the Bitcoin currently in supply, which is about 19.5 million, is worth about, half a trillion dollars. All right. This originated in 2009, okay? It was created anonymously by the NSA and the CIA. I'm joking, sort of. Nobody knows who created Bitcoin, but I do not believe it was some random guy named Satoshi Nakamoto. Nobody does. Nobody knows for sure who created it, but my guess is that it was a group effort. I believe that the technology for something like Bitcoin came out much earlier than 2009 under a different name. I think it was called e-money or something to that effect. And it was on an encryption algorithm that was like half of the SHA-256 that Bitcoin is today. Now, this is all stuff that you don't really need to know, but it's just helpful little tidbits for you to think about. Currently, trade volume is around $11 billion a day. It's up 10.3%. All right. You can get in and out of a Bitcoin position instantly. I mean, pretty much with no slippage whatsoever on any exchange. And the beauty of the beauty of Bitcoin is this. Bitcoin takes, let's say you have your bank account, right? And if I were to send you a check for $5,000 or $10,000, I send you a check for $10,000, and then the bank has to clear that, right? It has to basically change the digits on my account and your account. Typically, it's pretty quick outside of the time it takes for you to get that check. And there's always a chance that somebody could fat finger that check. Oh, I gave you $100,000 by accident. They added a zero in there, or some bank error in your favor, bank error not in your favor. All kinds of things happen at banks. We all know this. The banking institutions are obviously controlled by these very centralized organizations, such as the IMF or, basically any of these groups. The banks loan out money to people at interest, but the banks are loaning that same money out over and over and over again. You could take $1,000 loan and the bank is loaning that multiple times. Now, since the Biden administration took over, one of the first things that happened at the beginning of the administration is they got rid of the bank reserve. In other words, there was a time when you had to have at least 10% of the money deposited as a reserve, right? To make it easier to withdraw and things of that nature. So if I go to a bank and I set up a bank account, I deposit $100,000, the bank had to keep 10% of that on hand. Now they can loan 100% of that money, and they're loaning it out to multiple banks at the same time. And they're making all of this revenue from these deposits, while we, the people, are getting nothing. We're taking all the risk, but we're not getting any of the reward. The banks are. And so the system is designed that way. And, when people feel that the banking systems are going to go under, or the bank is not going to have your money, well, or people, excuse me, there's one yawn. It's only 10 a.m. It's still early. I'm waking up. But when people believe that the banks are not going to do well, I'm going to switch to this real quick. When the banks believe that, or when the people believe that the banks aren't going to do very well, they call it a bank run. Basically, everybody runs out to that bank and tries to withdraw their money at the same time, which can collapse a bank, because all that money is basically loaned out to a bunch of other banks, and it can create a cascading effect. The government doesn't want Bitcoin. The government doesn't want cryptocurrency or anything. Number one, because it's transparent, primarily because everything is kept track of on a blockchain. Every transaction ever made on Bitcoin is on the blockchain. The government doesn't want that. Okay. I think they do. Low key, I think the government loves that. But what they don't want is a system that the public can control taking over a system that they control. That's basically the problem right now. And so Bitcoin itself, excuse me, Bitcoin itself is like taking that check that you're writing and sending it to me, and then the bank being the middleman. And Bitcoin basically says, you don't need a middleman anymore. You have wallet A and wallet B. I'm sending value from my wallet to your wallet instantly. And the transaction costs are minute, very, very, very tiny. And so basically you're able to send millions, billions, or even trillions of dollars someday in value from point A to point B without a middleman screwing it up at a very, very tiny, tiny, tiny transaction fee. There are people that have sent millions of dollars and it cost them 15 cents to send it. Okay. Whereas a bank will charge you much higher fees and take much longer. There's so many different use cases for that. But ultimately, it's about empowering the people to manage their own funds and get rid of the old system that all of the old heads have been profiting off of for decades and decades and decades, and putting that power in the hands of the people, which is what ultimately, Bitcoin planted the seed for all that. So that's Bitcoin. Bitcoin is a store of value. Every transaction that happens is basically stored on a block. That block gets added to, and that's why we call it the blockchain. Every transaction that has ever happened on that blockchain is stored in blocks and infinite. Okay. Bitcoin mining, we call it Bitcoin mining, is basically when a group of people use CPU intensive hardware to process these blocks, and they are rewarded kind of a random algorithm, and you're rewarded in Bitcoin for a job well done ultimately. And so, and that takes us down a whole other rabbit hole, which it's not relevant to you right now, but ultimately, people that are mining are actually processing these transactions on the blockchain, confirming them with a consensus algorithm so that, once everybody has agreed, yes, this transaction is good, it goes to the blockchain, it's minted, the transaction is complete, and the value is completed from going from point A to point B. That's pretty much it, the gist of it. At the same time, to keep them working, they're trying to solve very, very, very complex, like encrypted puzzles and things. Is basically what it boils down to. Now, to go into the next generation of things, you've got the introduction of smart contracts, which was Ethereum. Ethereum's number 2 in the market. Probably still a pretty decent place to put a little money. In my opinion, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not licensed for anything. I'm just some old guy on the interwebs that happened to do pretty well in the crypto space since 2017, and many of my followers have too. Now, Ethereum is really good because it introduced ICOs, or basically what we in the crypto space called IPOs of the blockchain era. So companies that would go public, typically you can't get access to those IPOs or initial public offerings unless you're an accredited investor. You basically had to already be rich to get richer. Well, the cryptocurrency space, the disruptor that it is, ultimately said, no, we don't like that. We want people that have $100 to be able to make $50,000 too. And there's a pro and con to that. The pro is that you could put $100 into a new cryptocurrency asset through smart contracts and throw $100 worth of Ethereum at a smart contract, and it would spit out tokens to your wallet. Which is the smart contract doing that. And then that project can go to the moon, and $100 could be 50 grand in, 24 hours sometimes. I mean, it was absolutely insane. And many, many millionaires were made from this. And it's basically the same system that the major institutions and the big companies that are funneling money all into politics and everybody that's continuing to try and beat crypto down. And it's basically paying their salaries, getting them elected. It's this kind of cycle, right? So we've disrupted that cycle with smart contracts, which we owe a great deal of gratitude to Ethereum for. Now, the con to that is every scammer in the cryptocurrency space was trying to scam. Everybody had an idea, everybody had something, and then they wanted to crowdfund it. They'd get millions and millions of dollars. The peak of the market would hit, everything would turn downward, and everybody would disappear with money, right? And that happened a lot, still happens to this day, which is why we always say you never want to invest more money than you can afford to lose, because most people buy at the top, they sell at the bottom because they don't know what they're doing. They don't understand everything I'm explaining in this video by the time I'm done with it. It might be a long one. And ultimately, and that's basically what it boils down to. So you had, everybody out there trying to get rich quick, throwing money at random projects, hoping it gets them 1,000x return overnight. Everybody capitalized on that in one way or another, for better or for worse. The problem with Ethereum was it would get bottlenecked, and it would, a lot of things would happen. CryptoKitties launched, which was like an NFT collection that basically bottlenecked the blockchain, spiked transaction fees to astronomical levels, to the point where it could cost you a few $100s to send $10 in Ethereum to someone. And then it would take forever for the transaction to conclude. And that was a big problem. So other cryptocurrencies launched. The obvious big one for me was Cardano. Cardano was founded by one of the co-founders of Ethereum, who left because he thought that the business should be a for-profit business, not kind of one of these like altruistic, save the world, save the planet kind of projects where it wasn't about generating a profit. And it's done well. And Vitalik Buterin is the main guy of Ethereum. Brilliant guy. And, he's an interesting guy to listen to. But Cardano launched. Cardano basically took all of the problems of Ethereum, fixed them. Ethereum still has problems today, okay? To me, it's old technology. We have Bitcoin as first generation, Ethereum as second generation, things like Cardano as third generation, basically fixing all the problems of the old and enhancing on that technology for the betterment of the future. And Cardano has been flawless in a lot of that in many regards, even though it's still not 100% right now. There's still a lot of things that we're waiting on. We're waiting on further Hydra development and other things that don't mean anything to you. So we're going to take a look at this. This is a chart that's showing the cryptocurrency cycles, okay? Now, what this is showing is the ebb and flow of the price of Bitcoin, and it's pretty telling, okay? Because ultimately, this here is showing you all the way back in like 2012 what happened. So we had a bull market, and then the market dropped, okay? And then it went sideways for the most part, with just a slight steady climb and an accumulation period, and then boom, we had another bull market. Price peaked, comes back down. But what do you see in common? You see a trend. This is a long-term trend. This goes all the way back from 2012 to present day. What you don't see, and this is a daily chart, mind you. What you don't see is the price coming up here and then dropping all the way down here and then coming back up, and it's all, you see a pattern, right? And in this pattern, you see basically a 2-year bear cycle, 2-year bull cycle, 2-year bear, 2-year bull. And why is that? That's because every 4 years, there's a Bitcoin halving, which means that every 4 years inside the algorithm of Bitcoin, mining yield is cut in half. So ultimately what you're doing is you're creating more supply or more demand while cutting the supply in half. As word and use case for Bitcoin continues to spread, more and more people want some. Well, there's only 21 million that's ever going to exist. The last Bitcoin likely won't ever be mined up until, I don't know, 2045 or something. I don't know. It's going to be a while. And so with that, you've got increased demand and your supply gets cut in half every 4 years, which ultimately pushes the price up further. And so that generally sparks a bull market. Now, if we look at, this is my crazy gobbledygook chart, but if we look at what's happened in the past, you'll see this peak here. This is December of 2017. Okay. This is over here. And we rose up, I think it was something like 16,000% from the low. All right. And every cycle we do get diminishing returns, but we still get significant returns because we're establishing a pattern. And ultimately what I believe is happening is, as we get closer, like 2030, 2035, we're going to see the price of Bitcoin probably settle somewhere. And we will likely not have a bull bear cycle anymore. Once mass adoption has come in and everybody's using it for things such as a store of value, I don't believe we're going to get the same ebb and flow. These ebb and flows are a part of early adoption. And as early adopters, the benefit of being a part of Bitcoin where it's at today is, in fact, these ebbs and flows until mass adoption basically hits. Because that mass adoption is what's going to keep the price more steady, right? Now, some other things that are happening in the cryptocurrency space that are really going to change things for this cycle. Number one is Bitcoin ETFs. Bitcoin ETFs are basically exchange traded funds, and they have been rejected by the SEC forever. Nobody's ever been able to get one passed, no matter who they were, until now. Because BlackRock, as many of us know, BlackRock is basically the number one, the biggest asset manager on the globe. CEO Larry Fink, a very, he's a World Economic Forum guy. He's basically one of the guys, I believe Larry Fink, like secretly kind of some way, somehow, definitely influences what happens in the world. Let's just say that. And he and BlackRock have, they're buying up all of the residential property. There's a whole narrative associated with a lot of the stuff related to BlackRock and the World Economic Forum, and honestly, governments all over the world. But BlackRock has basically put in an application to launch their own ETF. What this means is that this is basically an electronically traded fund. And when they release this, once it gets passed and they're able to create this as an investment vehicle for their investors, you've got an asset manager that manages, roughly around $14 trillion in assets with the ability to buy Bitcoin. And, as people buy this Bitcoin, they buy into this ETF on paper, BlackRock has to buy that Bitcoin or hold that Bitcoin for that investor, which means there's going to be a significant pump in Bitcoin's price once this kicks off. The rumors are that it's already been approved and just hasn't been announced yet. But once it does, you're going to see this take off. Now, the flip side to that is, for the same amount of power they have to rise the price or raise the price, they have that same power to dump it. Okay, so you have to be very careful. And in many cases, things like an ETF or some of these other investment vehicles can be used to manipulate the price of Bitcoin. Now, the manipulation of the price in Bitcoin is only going to be as possible as mass adoption allows it. In other words, the more people are holding it, the more people that are doing business with it or exchanging it and so forth, the more difficult it is for people to manipulate the price, because Bitcoin is divisible by 100 million Satoshis. Okay. So what does that mean? 100 million Satoshis is like if you break down $1 into 100 pennies. Think of a Satoshi as 100 million pennies, making up the total value of Bitcoin. Now, what that means is you can send Satoshis to somebody. You don't have to buy an entire Bitcoin. You don't say, oh, well, Bitcoin's at $26,057. I have to come up with that amount to buy Bitcoin. No, you could buy $10 worth of Bitcoin if you want. And you're buying Satoshis. We call them sats. If you're accumulating Satoshis over time, we're calling that stacking sats. All right. So those are some of the fun terminology. Now, Bitcoin is currently, our current cycle right now is we are entering a bull cycle. So for people that are new watching this, now is the time to start potentially, this is not financial advice, don't do what I'm saying. I have already begun averaging in. And I am going to continue averaging in. And I'm probably going to be holding off on the bulk of my average in or my final cap on the bottle there when we get to the halving. The next halving is roughly going to be this blue line right here. So from this point, I expect us to probably go sideways. We might even get another dip or like a final drop in the price action across the board. And then we start racing off and going into the next bull cycle, which I think the peak is going to be somewhere around here. And it's likely, is this, let me see. Yeah, this is Bitcoin USD. So I believe that we are probably going to end up somewhere, let's say the halving. I think we're going to end up somewhere around here. We might wick up above, but I think we're going to do something to this effect in terms of the price action of Bitcoin. Why is that a big deal? Well, because when Bitcoin pumps, everything else in the market does as well. Bitcoin generally pumps first, and then the profits of that Bitcoin pump get pushed into everybody's favorite altcoin, everybody's favorite shitcoin, meme tokens, you name it. And there's kind of a hierarchy, right? Cardano typically has a mind of its own, but it generally pumps. Now, this is my friend Benjamin Cowan. This is into the cryptoverse. For those of you out there, there's a link in the description below if you guys want to join and get access to like literally thousands of charts on every metric you can think of for just about every blockchain out there. But this is the Pi cycle top indicator. This has been accurate 100% in calling the peak of the market. And what I will say is, when I'm looking at this chart, I used this chart to call the last peak of the market. As I was getting on a plane to Puerto Rico, these crossed over. I said, listen, the market just peaked. Everybody thought I was flaming and trolling. And I'm like, the market just peaked. But right about here, I think it was, whatever the date is. It's hard for me to see it from here. I got on the plane, and then later that afternoon when I landed and I read everybody flaming, I'm like, don't worry, this is going to be a 2-peak market. And sure enough, we got another peak in the market cycle. And then we dropped from there. Now, here's where we are. Now, the peak of this market cycle means that when the red and the green cross each other, that is the peak. That is where the market is peaked out. You understand why or how that works. You can read all of this and figure out how to calculate it yourself, but you're not going to need to do that. But I typically watch the Pi cycle top indicator, and maybe this will change a little bit with the BlackRock ETF, but I'm doubting it. Now, other use cases. El Salvador marks 2nd anniversary of their historic Bitcoin legal tender law. El Salvador's economy was absolutely struggling. And then they went against the IMF. They went against the banking cartels who were trying to get them to go the other way. And they said, we are going to make Bitcoin legal tender. And they've been booming. They've been doing very well since then. It's absolutely mind-boggling. But El Salvador has been benefiting from Bitcoin. And we expect to see this in other countries as well. So in the grand scheme of things, you have a very limited, a very finite asset used to transfer value from point A to point B internationally, anywhere on the globe, almost instantly with minimal costs. You don't have to worry about a bank screwing up your transaction or fat fingering something. You've got the biggest asset managers on the planet getting ready to launch new investment vehicles into Bitcoin. And you are basically at the entry point of a new bull run in the cryptocurrency cycle. That alone should explain that now is the time to start considering getting some Bitcoin. That's just my opinion. Now, final note is Bitcoin might go from 25,000 to 150,000. Okay, which is a pretty decent gain, especially for basically like a year and a half. So if I were to put $100,000 into Bitcoin right now, that $100,000 could be, close enough to $1 million. All right. So that's pretty good for a year and a half's worth of investment, and $100,000. Now, the other side to that is Cardano is currently trading at 25 cents, not 25 grand, trading at 25 cents. Its original all-time high was $3.14. And at that time, it still wasn't even finished. And I believe that we're going to go somewhere between $5 and $6 by the peak of this market cycle. Okay. It went from 2 cents to $3.14. I believe it can go from 25 cents all the way up to somewhere around, anywhere between $5 to $8, so somewhere up in here. So that would be the trajectory from here. And I believe that's absolutely going to be the case. There's so many different variables. This isn't a Cardano video, but I could pick that apart at some point in the future if the comments demand it. But ultimately, this is going to do very, very well. And other cryptocurrencies are going to do very well also. But Cardano is just the one I married back in 2017. And, I'm not a cheater. So that's just kind of what we do. And I think ultimately the money that can be made here is a magnitude over what you can make in Bitcoin. So what I generally do and what I say, because I hold Bitcoin as well, I buy a good amount of Bitcoin so that I feel comfortable. And any change on a global level, I have enough Bitcoin to carry me through that. And then I call, my ADA investment as my breadwinner, right? So I have my security. I feel secure getting Bitcoin no matter what's happening in the market or the world. And then my breadwinner is Cardano. And ultimately, and I've got a lot of content about Cardano. And what I would suggest from here is getting into my playlist. Some of the videos are old, but they're still good. I have videos on security, ways to keep your assets secure and all sorts of things. But ultimately, there's a getting started in... a getting started in crypto playlist, and I would watch every one of those videos. And if you have any other questions, just leave them in the comments below. I will answer questions for people on this video in particular because I want these answers to help my aunt and help her get started. Now, the final thing that I'm going to touch on, this is justonesecret.com. And this is basically a website that I've been building. I have become an affiliate for what is a pretty daggone awesome product these are all health products. They're not cheap. I will say that, but you can either get the cheap, not so healthy products, or you can get the products that are actually healthy. There's a lot of stuff out there, health foods, health products, health this, health that, but a lot of it's garbage. This is actually really good stuff, and I am going to start promoting this actively. There's just a lot of different stuff: immune support, digestive health, athletic performance, and anti-aging. There's stuff for energy, so forth and so on. So I've been building this website, and you can join and become your own. You basically start your own business selling this stuff. Now, I know it sounds really cheesy for me to say because we've all seen things like Amway and this and that. This is not that. This stuff is it really is high-end stuff. I've seen what it's done for my mother-in-law. I'm going to have her on someday. I might have her on Zoom. And obviously my wife, we're getting everything set up in the office downstairs for face-to-face interviews. And I'm going to start, basically my wife and I are going to sit down and we're going to start talking all the time, and we're going to start bringing on other guests. But ultimately, we're going to talk about this and what she thinks about these products, because I have been looking for something to get to become a part of. I was going to white label some stuff, and I decided I'm going to focus on this instead. And I'm basically going to start doing content showing everybody what I'm doing to promote this website, how I'm using artificial intelligence, like this image right here I created in artificial intelligence. All the art on here I created in AI. I'm going to show people how to do all of that, as well as content writing for social media and things. I'm going to basically be using ChatGPT and other resources to write content relevant to the ingredients of these products, so that we can basically educate people on why these products work, why they matter, and then ultimately all of the different things that you can do to promote these products and ultimately build a passive recurring revenue stream for yourself as well. And so if you're interested, you can check out justonesecret.com. And yeah, this is my new thing that I'm going to be working on and sharing with everybody. And I'm going to be sharing everybody I'm waiting on all my products to show up. I'm going to start using, but I've been taking like MOJO Coffee. We've been taking that forever, man. My wife slips it to me all the time. I didn't really understand what it was. And it's good stuff, but basically it's like coffee, but it's not coffee beans as much as it is like mushrooms or something. It's crazy. I know I'm going to get into a lot of this stuff, but this is also something, Julie, that you might want to check out and look into. Any of the links on this site basically go directly to the main website, and I should get affiliate credit for it. So I have to confirm that my links work the way they're intended, but there is a link down below in the description here that'll take you to this site that I will get credit for. When you go to the website, you should see at the top there'll be a little note that basically says Crypto Crow sent you here, kind of thing. So in a nutshell, I'm hoping that at least puts some things into perspective for you. This is almost an hour video. It's 42 minutes. And that's basically the gist, right? And you could go as deep down this rabbit hole as you want, but ultimately, if I just got, some resources and I were looking to invest them in something that I felt was going to do very well for me, I would definitely get some Bitcoin. And like I said, I look at Bitcoin as like a security blanket. I look at my Cardano investment as my profit builder. Both are going to do well between now and 2025, in my opinion, unless they're, the thing of it is the worse the dollar does and the worse different economies do on a global scale, the better Bitcoin, the better the case for Bitcoin. And when you talk about like Cardano or even Ethereum, you start getting into DeFi. You'll start seeing a lot of stuff related to DeFi. DeFi, in many regards, there are a lot of lending companies out there. I know there's a new one getting ready to launch. I'm supposed to interview the founder. He's been in Bitcoin since 2011. And I really want to be a part of this project also. But ultimately, it's DeFi is basically people like you and me putting their Bitcoin or their cryptocurrency assets up, and we're loaning it out to other people through a smart contract. It's not even through like a bank or anything. And then people borrow it. They'll borrow some of that money or that value by putting up their own collateral and paying me interest. And we're basically getting the middleman out of the banking institution, right? We're basically saying, no, we have the technology now to have our own financial infrastructure that's much more secure and less greedy and less focused on greed than the banks. And that's one of the reasons why the banks are having so much trouble right now, because their modus of operandi is basically screwing up. Like, what do you get in yield in a CD today or a savings account? You don't get anything anymore. So while they're basically lowering what they have to do, while increasing their profitability, they're basically taking away the profitability for us. So it's like they're biting the hand that feeds them constantly. And we're at a point where this is break. And so the technology is definitely in a position to empower the people. And that's why so many of us are here. That's why we're so passionate about cryptocurrency, because of what it means for us, not just financially, but for our own freedom. And ever more now, has freedom become such a topic of discussion, because we're seeing a lot of our freedoms ultimately being stripped away in one way or another, whether it's through social gaslighting or, we don't even need to get into all of that. But we're just seeing the world flip on its head right now, to the point where not much makes all that much sense unless you understand the grand narrative that so many people choose to ignore, because they don't really want to know. So many people today are just enjoying the fact that they can feel self-righteous in their endeavor to call other people out, or, whatever makes them feel good, makes them feel like they've accomplished something on their day. A lot of it is just bogus narrative. And what it all boils down to is keeping us divided to the point where the government can put more controls on us. And there are many of us out here who've been studying blockchain technology, Bitcoin, just cryptocurrency in general, all of its applications, all of its use cases, current and potential. That's why we're here. And so, listen, I hope this helps you understand things a little bit better. I know it was kind of a long rant, but hopefully you at least have a fundamental understanding of what blockchain, Bitcoin, cryptocurrency is. And just check out my Getting Started in Cryptocurrency playlist. Start watching even the old videos where I look like, well, I can't say I look better today than I did then, but the videography, the video quality is not going to be as good, but the information is. And that's what's key. It's about the information. Watch every one of those videos. Spend a day, get some coffee, and watch those videos, take some notes, and start learning about cryptocurrency, because one way or another, this is your future. And it's better that you start learning it and start using it now and get ahead of everyone else around you. Chances are, where you are right now, geographically speaking, probably aren't that many people in this space. Be one of the first. Help bring a lot of those people into this space so they can learn from you, and spread the word, pay it forward. And until next time, I love all of you, including my Aunt Julie. And until next time, I'll see you soon. Grow your coins.